What's the best DJI goggles and camera system to buy to get started with the DJI system? I mean, these days, if you're getting started with the DJI system, the Goggles 2 or the Integra and the O3 Air unit are like, is there really any other choice if you're interested in the DJI system? Like you could get, the real question is Goggles 2 or Integra, right? Integra's a little bit cheaper. For me, the adjustable focus on the Goggles 2 is a real benefit. The built-in battery on the Integra, I might like it if I had it, but I kind of don't mind having a battery in my pocket for the Goggles 2. So pick the Goggles 2 or the Integra based on your budget and based on how you feel about the integrated battery and the head strap. And then the O3 is obviously the camera to get, again, if you're asking about DJI. I think it's actually a very simple question these days because there's no aftermarket cameras for the O3 like there were for the Vista, like there are for the Vista. Is there a difference in performance between the cheapest and the most expensive M10 GPS? Siamil Kader wants to know. Well, I have to say I haven't tested a whole bunch of M10 GPSs. I can tell you that I have had M10 GPSs that performed excellently, and I have had some M10 GPSs that performed badly. I don't think it relates to price, though. Some of them were just better than others. I'm not sure that the price is, I think that the more expensive ones are going to have things like a built-in compass. Maybe they're going to have like an amplifier or something to help clean the signal. They're going to have a cleaner power supply. I think that the more expensive ones could give better performance. There certainly are things you can do to make a GPS perform better or perform worse, but I wouldn't necessarily assume that the more expensive ones were more expensive because they were better. They might just be more expensive, and really flight testing is what you would need to make that decision. Do you have a specific video for setting OSD on a Caddx Vista with Goggles 2? Are there any differences between that and the O3 Air unit? Muses, if you have the Vista bound to the Goggles 2, then setting them up is identical to the O3, as far as I can tell. One difference between the Vista and the O3 is going to be that you have to manually wire up the Vista, whereas the O3 just has a plug that should be good to go. So you could have soldered the TX and the RX wires wrong. Remember, TX goes to RX and RX goes to TX, but the actual setup procedure is identical. Is there any tiny whoop that works with Express LRS and the Goggles, the DJI Goggles V1? To work with the Goggles V1, it would need to have the Vista video transmitter and probably a naked Vista. I don't know, like, for example, does Flywoo still make a naked Vista bind and fly? That's what we would be looking for. Let's look for the Flywoo Nano 2S. I swear that you could buy this with a naked Vista. I don't know if you still can. That's the analog version. I guess we don't need to put Flywoo. It's the Firefly Nano Baby 2S. Analog, DJI HD, DJI Wasp Micro. There we go. How about this? Nano DJI. Let's try that. Yeah, this is the direction I would steer you. It's not exactly a tiny whoop, but you're not going to find a true tiny whoop with a DJI on it because the DJI is so heavy. I think the closest you're going to get is like an 85 millimeter. So I would steer you something like this direction, with the caveat that this is not a true tiny whoop. And you can get it with Express LRS pre-installed and a DJI Vista that will bind to your V1s. That's the direction I would send you. Garter Rotor suggests the GepRC P16. Naked O3 looks pretty promising. June Loco, I agree, but the O3 will not bind to the V1 goggles. It does look like a Naked Vista. Is it still available for? Is it available for sale? Choose an option. It doesn't look like it's sold with Express LRS pre-installed. Of course, you could always add it. Flywoo Flylens, and now again, the Flylens has the O3. V1 goggles won't bind to the O3. How dare you not send him in the 1S Walksnail direction, asks Black Jungle. He asked for DJI. He said the V1 goggles. That's what he said. One Eye FPV is paying attention. I noticed JB looks to his right when doing screen sharing, and he puts himself on the opposite corner so it looks very natural, as if he's looking at the screen. You are correct. That is no accident. Blunty and I also put ourselves on the news. Well, we're not doing the news. But Blunty and I also put ourselves on the news so that we look at each other. I think it was an accident, Blunty, the first time we did it, but it worked out and we liked it. Do you remember if we did that on purpose or if it was an accident?
I do not remember. It feels like something that we didn't plan to do, but just kept doing. But I'm not sure.
Like the first time we did it, people were like, aha, that looks good. And we were like, yeah, no, we did that on purpose. Black Jungle is the meme master of my Discord server, as well as a big fan of Walksnail. I'm a big fan. I'm so... Blunty, what was it you said about Walksnail before? I don't know if you want to say this on stream or you'd rather disavow this statement. Maybe I should say it. I don't know.
Sometimes it feels like everything Walksnail does is half-assed, and then they work really hard to fix it, and then they finally get to three-quarter ass. You know.
That is so on point. That is so on point. And the thing is, like, the three-quarter ass that they get to is pretty good, right? It's pretty good. But it's like, it still kind of leaves you with the feeling that you're missing something, doesn't it? So, like, on the one hand, I want to like Walksnail so much because of all of the things they've done that DJI was what we begged DJI to do and they didn't do. And Walksnail came along and were like, here we are. We're going to do it. And they did. They delivered custom Betaflight OOSD. DJI still doesn't have that on the V2s unless you're using the O3. Walksnail did it. They've done, I'm not going to list all the things they've done. They've done a lot of them. And they've developed a pretty freaking solid system. But then constantly there's like little bugs and little weird, annoying things that make you go, ah, and just sort of prevent a sort of wholehearted support. Yeah. Anyway.